Hello, I'm going to explain how the Fibonacci numbers are related to dwadasamsa signs and the planet ladder, and Fibonacci numbers are also related to the elements and modes of zodiac signs. Mind-boggling. So this is another video in a series on how numbers, like the Fibonacci numbers, prime numbers, the golden ratio, are intimately related to astrological concepts. It's mind-boggling. So the ideas I'm going to present here again on Fibonacci numbers are from Russell Olhausen. I'm going to include some perspectives on this, some views on it, and also some information about prime numbers that I've come up with, and combine it with Russell's observations to put this all together to make this video. Okay, dwadasamsa signs and the planet ladder are closely related to Fibonacci numbers. They're also closely related to prime numbers. Well, what are these things? Well, the planet ladder is a big deal. Let's start with the planet ladder. The term planet ladder comes from astrologer Donna Woodwell, who saw the planet ladder in some ancient manuscripts. It shows up periodically. And the planet ladder is simply a zodiac where we put Scorpio in the first house. So here's a planet ladder. We've got Scorpio in the first house, and then we go around. So it's similar to the modern idea of putting Aries in the first house, but we put Scorpio. And when you first hear that, it sounds weird. Like, why do I want to put Scorpio in the first house? And then Sag, and then Capricorn. What's the point of that? Well, you get the planet ladder. You get the two signs that are ruled by Saturn at the bottom, and it's this like evolutionary ladder that you climb up from Saturn to Jupiter to Mars to Venus to Mercury to Sun and Moon, and you've reached enlightenment. Well, I'm getting a little dramatic here, but you get the idea. It's a ladder that goes up, and you have this perfect symmetry going down the middle. Now, so that's what the planet ladder is. It's a chart with Scorpio rising, Leo in the 10th, and Aquarius in the 4th, and Taurus in the 7th, etc. And you get the symmetry of the planets. Well, very interestingly, what Russell did is, instead of getting the total of a zodiac sign, he takes the total of half of the zodiac sign, like the last half of the zodiac sign, and the first half of the next. Okay, let me explain this, okay? Because by playing with these Fibonacci numbers, what he's done is he has found that this axis of symmetry is special. It's very, very special. It's 9 and 9, and it's the only place in the zodiac that produces the perfect 9. Remember that 9 is what this whole number system is based on. When you reach 9, you've reached, it's like nirvana, it's like illumination, it's wholeness. And this symmetry that divides the whole zodiac, based on Fibonacci numbers, if you know how to look at them, becomes the point of symmetry, of wholeness, completeness that divides the whole zodiac. Now, how do we create these numbers? That's actually very simple, which is what I started to say. We're going to take the half of the zodiac sign and half of the next one. Let me show you. Remember, to explain, I'm going to step back a second. Remember that with the Fibonacci numbers, we start with 0 Cancer, which is now over here, because I've got Scorpio rising, got 0 Cancer on this like 9th cusp, and we go 1, 1, 2, 3. There are the Fibonacci numbers, 5, 8. Next Fibonacci number is 13. 13 reduces to 4. So around the outside we have the Fibonacci numbers. Now, in the first video on this, what we did is we took 1 plus 1 equals 2. So Gemini, is a 2, and Taurus becomes 2 plus 3 is a 5, and we find out that the signs ruled by Mercury, which are Gemini and Virgo, are both 2. But now what we're going to do is, instead of taking the two halves of the sign and adding them together to get the sign, we're going to add the last half of Gemini with the first half of Cancer so that we can get a value for the 0 Cancer axis. This is all based around the assumption that dividing the sign in half is fundamental. It's as if they're like cells of a body, that you have this cell that's 30 degrees, but then you have a subcell that's 15 degrees. And they're very, very fundamental. Interestingly, prime number theory indicates that we have 30-degree sections with a point of symmetry in the middle, and it's important to look at each 15-degree section. That's explained in other videos, but a lot of different perspectives we're finding out emphasizing 15 degrees. Well, if the 15 degrees are so important, as this indicates, because we're using every 15 degrees to put out the Fibonacci numbers, and as I mentioned, 15 degrees sections is also important according to the symmetry of prime numbers, why don't we take the ones surrounding the beginning of a sign? And that's what Russell did. We take the last half of Gemini with the first half of Cancer to get the zero Cancer value, and you get 9 plus 1 equals 10, which reduces to a 1. So 1 is the value of this axis by taking the last half of Gemini with the first half of Cancer. Let's do another example. Last half of, this is first half of, what am I doing? Last half of Cancer, sorry, I'm being dyslexic here, going around this way. Last half of Cancer total is a 1. First half of Leo is an 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So that's all these numbers are. And when you do this, you end up with 9, 9 here. You end up with 8, 1 for the next one, and 6, 3, and they alternate. I'll explain what this moon-sun business is later. Don't worry about that. But by taking half of each zodiac sign, 0 Leo, 0 Aquarius becomes the point of wholeness, completeness, the point of symmetry, where everything is perfect. The 0 Virgo, 0 Pisces totals to 9, 8 plus 1, and then the next axis is 6 plus 3, and they alternate. 6 plus 3, 8, 1, 6, 3, 8, 1, and so on. Okay, so you got it? All I'm saying is that instead of taking each zodiac sign, we're going to take the last half of one sign, the first half of the other, and we'll find out that the Fibonacci numbers, when reduced to 9, become an axis of wholeness. 8, 1, which totals 9, or 6, 3. And what's also interesting, by using the dwadasamsa signs, we find that this is lunar, and it alternates. This is lunar, this is solar, and that's what I'll show you next. How we use the dwadasamsa signs to discover that this is lunar, this is solar, this is lunar, this is solar. So, to summarize, what happens is by taking the Fibonacci number of the last half of one sign and the first half of the next sign, you'll get a number that surrounds that axis for the beginning of the sign, and the opposites will always total to 9, and it will always be an 8, 1, 6, 3, 8, 1, 6, 3, alternating, except for 0 Leo, 0 Aquarius, which ends up being the perfect 9. This is mind-boggling. What's mind-boggling about it is that 0 Leo, 0 Aquarius is the point of symmetry where everything is blended together and it becomes special according to Fibonacci numbers. Now, the main thing I haven't explained to you is that where the sun-moon business comes from, and that comes from dwadasamsa signs. So let me show that to you next. The numbers are created by the dwadasamsa sign. Okay, I've explained all this. Well, here are the dwadasamsa signs. The dwadasamsa sign is a zodiac within each sign. So it's similar to fractal theory, where you get a pattern within a pattern. So here's Aries, Taurus going around. I've done it the modern way, where I've put Aries in the first house. And you simply divide the sign Aries into 12 sections. They come out to be 2.5 degrees each. And you get Aries, Taurus, blah, 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 all the way through Pisces. Now here's the interesting about dwadasamsa signs is that when you get to Taurus, instead of starting with Aries, going Aries through Pisces and then going to Aries, you skip a sign so that each sign begins with its own sign. So Taurus begins with Taurus, we get to the end of Taurus, we're at Aries, we skip Taurus so that each sign can begin with its own sign. So it's like a fractal idea where you get a zodiac within a zodiac, and the dwadasamsa idea is that each sign begins with the zodiac beginning with its own sign. Now, where the sun-moon business comes from is simply that Aries begins with fire, which is an odd-numbered sign, and it's called masculine in astrology. Aquarius, the last sign of Pisces, last dwadasamsa sign, is air. That's masculine. So we're going to call that solar. That's a solar or masculine thing. And then Aries to Taurus will be two feminine signs, Pisces and Taurus. So that's where the solar-lunar comes from, is the fractal concept of taking a zodiac within a zodiac and assuming this ancient idea of dwadasamsas is correct, where you can start each sign with its own sign, we end up with a solar emphasis here, two masculine signs, a lunar emphasis here, and then solar, and then lunar, and so on. So this idea of a polarity, masculine-feminine, or you could call it solar-lunar, alternating, that's where this comes from. So this is the, we're just calling, Russell's called the feminine emphasis here at the end of Leo and beginning of Virgo, lunar. You can call it lunar, you can call it feminine, but the nice thing about lunar is you can put a moon glyph there for it. So all of the lunar axes have Fibonacci numbers of 8, 1. The solar axes have Fibonacci numbers of 6 and 3. They all total to 9, with the lunars preferring 8, 1, and the solars preferring 6, 3, with the exception of 0 Leo, which is the point of symmetry. So the mind-boggling thing here is that the Fibonacci numbers organized on the alternative step, instead of doing each sign, crossing the signs, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to start the first beat, you might say, on the last half of the sign. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, so we're jumping over the sign. And by jumping over, we find that the opposite sections total to 9 of wholeness, with the lunar being 8, 1, the solar being 6, 3, with the exception of the point of symmetry, which is 9, 9. So that's it, a fascinating way in which Fibonacci numbers align themselves perfectly with the ruling planets of the signs and with the planetary ladder. Now, a few more thoughts about this. Okay, I've explained all that. Is, again, according to the symmetry of prime numbers, 30-degree sections are important because the symmetry is created out of multiplying the lowest prime numbers. 2 times 3 times 5 is 30, and it creates a 30-degree cycle, symmetrical cycle of 2 sections of 15 degrees. And then the next supersymmetry point of prime numbers is 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, which is 210, which equals 0 Scorpio. This symmetry of prime numbers is described in other videos and also some papers I've written. But 0 Scorpio is a starting point. According to prime numbers, it's where a cycle begins, an extremely important cycle, and therefore it makes sense to put 0 Scorpio as the starting point. So 0 Scorpio has a close association with being placed as the first house, according to prime number theory, and that gives us the planetary ladder. So what I'm pointing out here is that a lot of the ideas emphasized by Fibonacci numbers are repeated by prime numbers. The importance of 15-degree sections, the importance of putting Scorpio rising, So the prime numbers and the Fibonacci numbers are all pointing to this diagram, with prime numbers saying, put Scorpio here, and Fibonacci numbers saying, here, we've got the perfect symmetry point right here. So out of numbers, this design appears, the design that matches a lot of the ancient astrological concepts. Really mind-boggling. So I think I've covered all this. Starting point, yeah, I've covered everything here. So that is the major thing I wanted to share, and also in this video I'll mention another fascinating thing about Fibonacci numbers is they are related to the elements and modes of the zodiac signs. I'll show that to you. The relationship to the modes I mean cardinal, fixed, mutable, is that when you take the opposite signs, they also total to 9. So we found in the previous discussion that when we take the last half of a sign and the first half of a sign, and the opposite last half and first half, they total to 9. You can see that right here. 8 plus 4 equals 12. This section here of the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries, would be what? 8 plus 4 is 12 is 3. The opposite, 5 plus 1 is 6, so that's the 3-6. And then, so that totals to 9, and also the opposite signs total to 9. So Aries is 4, which is 8 plus 5, which is 13. 13 is 1 plus 3 is 4. So Aries and Libra, 4 plus 5 is 9. Taurus, Scorpio, we get the 4, 5. Gemini, Sag, we get 2, 7. So with the signs, it doesn't alternate in that nice, simple way, with the exception of 0 Leo, 0 Aquarius, that we have with the diagram that we saw earlier. But we do get the opposite signs always equaling 9, which is fascinating because it makes sense. If you're an astrologer and you like to think symbolically about these things, the opposite signs are like a continuum, a spectrum from one extreme to the other, where Aries is focused on expressing itself, Libra is focused on reaching out to others. It's a polarity, it's a spectrum. The totality of that spectrum becomes 9. Now what happens is that the signs opposite to each other total to 9. Also fits in with Vedic astrology, where opposite signs see each other, or aspect each other. All planets see each other across the zodiac, and they reach this fulfillment of 9. And what happens with the number 9, I mentioned it earlier here, yeah, here it is, that when you multiply 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, you never leave 9. It's one of the reasons why it's the perfect number in a way. So 36 is 3 plus 6 is 9, 45 equals 4 plus 5 equals 9. It's always 9. What that means is that any combination of signs, if I take Pisces and Aries opposite, their two opposite signs, that will also be 9, because it'll be 9 plus 9 is 18. Any multiple of 9 will remain 9. So therefore the cardinal signs, as we have here, will total to 9. 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 8 is 18, 18 is 1, 8 is 9. So the cardinal, fixed, immutable will total to 9. So again, we see a relationship of the Fibonacci numbers to a basic concept in astrology. The modes, in other words, the cardinal, fixed, mutable, if you total their signs, they all add up to 9. 9 is the wholeness and completeness. All the cardinal signs together give us a fire, earth, air, and water. We get one of each element, and by having one of each element all squared to each other, we have a totality and a completeness, which is 9. So it's all very aesthetically pleasing, mysteriously all interconnected beautifully, the way these Fibonacci numbers work with so many different ideas in astrology. And if we look at the fire signs, we'll find that the fire signs total to 3, the water signs total to 3, and the air and earth signs total to 6. Let's look at an example of that right here. These are all diagrams that Russell made. Here are the fire signs: Aries, Leo, Sag. 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 7 is 12. 12 equals 1, 2 is 3. So there are the fire signs totaling to 3. If you take each side of this triangle by taking the total of the two numbers to combine together, 7 plus 4 is 11, 11 equals 2. So these are the sides, which is the total of each of those pairs. You get 2 plus 5 is 7, plus 8 is 15, is 6. So here's an interesting thing I noticed, is that when you total the signs, which is like the angle here, each sign, plus the sides, you get 9. So 4 plus 1 plus 7 will come out to be 12, which is 3, and the sides will equal 6. 3 plus 6 equals 9. So all of these triangles, the fire, earth, air, and water, either the sides total to 3 or 6, or the signs themselves total to 3 or 6, and when you add the signs plus the sides, it's like totaling, you might say, the angle or that point. You're totaling the points plus the sides, they equal 9. So again, everything reducing down to these basic numbers. And the numbers 3 and 6, of course, are the building blocks of 9. The planets are never given 3, 6, or 9. The planets are given the qualities, specific qualities. 3 and 6 are like building blocks to, or components of the wholeness of 9. The other numbers are like colors of the rainbow that give specific qualities. So all of the other numbers, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8, are given to the signs. When I say given to, they're given to them mathematically. We don't have to do it. The Fibonacci numbers mathematically assign it. It's natural law. It's the way it is. It all works out perfectly in that way. Okay, that's my last slide. So I've covered it all. So to summarize, the Fibonacci numbers are closely related, going back to this diagram. The Fibonacci numbers are closely related to the planetary ladder. They make a point of symmetry just by taking the total of the last half and first half of a sign. They create alternating axes of 8 plus 1 and 6, 3, which become the lunar and solar areas according to dwadasamsas. So you get that perfect pattern, and the Fibonacci numbers are also related to the cardinal fixed mutable and the fire, earth, air, water combinations, and the prime numbers also reinforce the concepts that are used here of why 15-degree sections are important based on the symmetry of prime numbers, and why we would put Scorpio here at the beginning. So multiple perspectives all producing the same conclusion. So all of this relationship of numbers to astrology, Russell and I have started calling this Pythagorean astrology. I'm making this video in December 2014. Only about a month ago, around November 2014, Russell and I and Raphael Gilbrand and several other people all started communicating and producing new material related to how numbers like golden ratio, prime numbers, Fibonacci numbers, each of us individually and independently discovering how concepts in astrology are based on these things, each one of us discovering different things, and adding to what each other is finding. So it's a sudden revival of Pythagorean astrology. Okay, thank you very much. God bless. Namaste.